Hi and welcome to the latest episode of Career Stories. I'm Carrie and I'm joined today by not Joe, Jamie.
A new face. A new face. My name's Jamie. I'm a trainee careers advisor in West Lothian. So if anybody's watching and recognises me for West Lothian, you can give me a heads up.
And I work in the Borders as well. So we have a lovely guest today. We have Laura Fulton, who's also known as Teach with Mrs. F. So you're an active primary teacher. You also create content for Instagram, TikTok, kind of showcasing your life as a teacher. I have actually shown pupils your page before, because we've got I have so many people who want to be primary teachers, and it's really good for them to get an actual behind the scenes look at what it actually looks like. So you've got sort of the common scenarios that you might face, life lessons, professional insights with a little bit of comedy as well.
Got to keep it lighthearted.
Oh, definitely. You've also got a combined sort of 89,000 followers on social media. I can't even imagine that. And you regularly get like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views on your content. So that's absolutely amazing. You've done a lot of collaborations as well. And you're also no stranger to a podcast, as you have your own Inside Voices, a teacher's podcast. So honestly, thank you so much for joining us today. We're just kind of going to get stuck in a little bit about chatting to you. What we quite like to do recently is we like to ask people about their first job, just as a little starter point of like, what was your first job? Do you remember what you spent your first pay on?
My first job was actually at Krispy Kreme, and
nice.
Best interview I've ever done, because it did involve donuts, so you can't really go wrong. They were hiring for, it was like their first store in my city. I'm from Dundee, so it was their first store there, and that was my first job. And at that point I was heavy into like the 2014 like YouTube makeup era, so I'm gonna guess it was something to do with that. Somebody online told me to get something that would make me look better, and apparently I believed it. Just went for it. I would presume that would be the first thing I would have spent my money on.
Oh, amazing. Oh, that's fantastic. So to go from Krispy Kreme to primary teaching, social media content, amazing.
Bit of a curve there.
Yeah, definitely. So most people will know you from your Instagram channel, which is Teach with Mrs. F. How did you first get started on social media?
So it was a bit of a strange one. I had obviously been on social media watching things. I'd always loved it, and I said the YouTube era, I'd always grown up kind of watching these people. So I was making all these products for my classroom. I was spending hours and hours making like classroom decor and worksheets and, you know, just learning aids, things to help my pupils. And someone somewhere promised me that, you know, you could become a millionaire if you were selling these. So I was like, that sounds nice. I'm going to try that. And originally I started on social media because I wanted to promote those products. So I was just trying to show them in a classroom, show them how I used them, how they worked. And then I think one day I was like, I'll just post a day in the life, and I'll put some clips in from the resources that I'm using. And then at the end of the day, a bunch of primary sevens that I'd previously taught were standing at the door, and they're like, we saw you on TikTok. And I hadn't even checked my phone, and I opened my phone, I'm like, oh no, it's gone to all of the people I used to teach. This is not good. And at that point I actually panicked and I deleted it. And I had told my head teacher anyway, but I deleted it. I was like, I can't do this. This is, you know, it got like 200 views. They're going to all come. And it just kind of went from there, to be honest. And it was actually my head teacher was like, why did you delete it? Like, just stick with it. You never know. So I ended up putting it back up, and kind of what started off as being one thing ended up being something completely different. So it was never really the intention to do it properly, if you will, but ended up here. So
very cool, and we're very glad to have you here.
Could you tell us about some of the perks of using social media and things that you enjoy about using these platforms?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really taken me by surprise about being on social media is your eyes are opened to like a whole other world. Obviously, I love teaching. I love my job. I think it's the best job in the world. But I've had the opportunity to, you know, meet some amazing people, go to some amazing events, and just learn so much from industry leaders, which I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do typically without doing social media. And I just think you make so many great connections, and it's definitely helped my confidence a bit. I think sometimes people think that you must be like really confident to start posting on social media, and I am just not. But people sometimes are surprised when I say that, and they say, well, you come across really, you know, confident, you can speak well, but I think it's just something I've learned to do from forcing myself out of my comfort zone. I think that's probably the biggest thing I've taken from it, is that if you never try, you'll just never know. So just go for it. Like there's nothing to lose. So why not just try and see what happens?
Has that developing, is that informed and I suppose enhanced your actual teaching practice as well?
Yeah, I think it has. It's one of those things where teaching's one of those jobs where you always have to be improving, you always have to change, because teaching and education, it changes so quickly anyway. But having the opportunity to kind of see out with my sort of bubble, if you will, so out with my kind of local authority or my area, and see what teaching practice is like across the globe, see what teachers are doing in a bunch of different countries, and it really sort of makes you think about your own practice and what you're doing and what you could be doing to be better. And I think something like that, when you're always pushed to be better, you've got someone, you feel like you kind of got someone chasing you along to make you better, then you're just going to you're going to want the best for everybody, aren't you? You want the best for your pupils. And I'm thankful that I'm now able to do that in different ways than I was before. So yeah, definitely.
Oh, I love that. And I think there's so much content out there, whether it's, in your field, in separate fields. So there's a lot of competition, and especially I think with the attention span that we're dealing with now, especially with like TikTok and things like that, and Reels, like you just scrolling through them, like there must be quite a lot of pressure to create content that people will watch, that will engage with. How do you decide what you're going to do for your content?
So I have 3 kind of content pillars, if you will. So when I started, I had no strategy. I had no idea what I was doing. I just posted whatever I thought was going to do well, whatever I liked. And my kind of main aim is if, it helps one person, or teaching can be quite a heavy job. It can be quite intense. So you said about a bit of comedy, if it can make one person laugh, if it can make one person smile at the end of the day and go, oh, it's not just me, So I have like 3 sort of pillars that I focus on. So one of them is around kind of early career teachers and supporting them. So I do a lot of videos on student teachers and kind of things that they can expect and how to support them through their placements, because I wish I had that when I was training. And then I've kind of got the sort of lifestyle, like teacher life, just, what do I get up to in the morning or an evening, just to show that you don't need to be working until 7 p.m. Like you can have a life outside of teaching. And then the other aspect is just the kind of teacher talk that you were talking about, where I'm trying to give an insight into the profession and what it's like, because I think it's quite a closed off sort of profession. You don't really see it. So that's my kind of 3 pillars, if you will, that I try to post around, and I try to stick with that. That's the strategy now. That could be different in a year, but I said at the beginning I had no strategy at all. I just pressed post and hoped for the best. But now I try and stick within those 3 kind of areas, if you will.
What was the kind of process of establishing that?
I have a wonderful management team who have helped to guide me along the way. So it basically just said to me, like, look at the content that you post, and it will fall into, 2 or 3 sort of sections anyway, naturally it will. And I think from doing that, it helped me be a bit more guided. It also takes the pressure off a little bit, because you're not there sitting there, watching somebody else's content and thinking, oh, I could do that, I should be doing this, because you could be there all day. And even within the same sort of niche of teaching, if you will, there's lots of different types of content out there. There's lots of different, creators and people who post different things. So it's very easy to compare yourself and think that you should be doing everything that you can. But it sort of helped me narrow it down and just focus on myself and my platform, rather than thinking of everything that it isn't. I'm trying to focus on what it is and what I can keep it being.
Like authentic to you.
Yeah,
because
100%.
if you're posting something that doesn't go with the way that you teach, the way that you are, your personality, then it's not going to come across as authentic, and people aren't going to engage with that, are they?
Exactly. And I think if you get really hung up on numbers and you get really hung up on views and you get hung up, you could be there all day beating yourself up about it. But if you know what you're doing is, like you said, it's authentic, it's what you want to post, it's within your kind of aims, then if it helps one person, 2 people, then great, that's the aims achieved,
No, that makes sense, definitely. And thinking about that, like a lot of the time when we're working as careers advisors, we're speaking to people and we're talking about skills, and that can be like your hard skills that are really specific to teaching, or your soft skills that could be helpful across all sorts of different things. Do you think that, is there like, what would be your like top 3 skills that are like super important for either teaching or social media, or a bit of both?
It's interesting. I think they actually overlap quite a lot. I think social media is amazing because there's obviously every single niche out there. So you can make anything out of your skills on social media, which I think is great. But I think to be a teacher, you have to be quite a good communicator. Obviously, you have to stand in front of children or young people, and you have to stand and be able to teach them, and you have to do that in an engaging way. And whether it's in the classroom and I've got 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get my point across, or if it's in a social media video and I've got 1 minute to get my point across, I need to be able to do that. And I think that's one of the things that's really probably been brought on more so by social media as well, that I think my communication's gotten better. So I think that's a really big one. In terms of time management things, you have to be so organised. You have to be, with teaching, it's just one of those things that would take everything from you if you let it. And the same with social media. It's not a particularly challenging job, but it is a time-consuming job. It takes a lot of time, and so you can easily sit there and spend hours and hours and hours and hours on your phone or hours and hours on your laptop. And when you're doing it after work, you don't have that time. You don't want to spend that time. So I think that's really important. And I think it's hard to say of a third. I'm trying to think of a third one that can cross between them both. But I think you have to be quite, I don't know how to describe wearing your heart on your sleeve, but you have to, that has to be a trait that you have when it comes to teaching and when it comes to social media, because it said if it's not authentic, people know they're just going to move on. But also in teaching, you have to be able to be kind of everything all at once. Like a child could come to you and they've had the worst day. And you have to be there to comfort them, and then the next child that comes over to you is having the best day of their life. You have to really show them that you have to show them that it's okay to feel emotions for the child that's struggling, but also you feel the emotions for the children that are really happy, and you have to be so flexible with that. You can't just be stuck in, right, I'm not having a great day, so this is my mood and that's it, it's not changing. You have to just be willing to adapt for the young people in front of you. And I think that's the same on social media. You have to be able to adapt and not take things too personally.
Yes, 100%. I think because that's like, it's so, you're putting your, I think there's that thought of, oh, you're putting yourself out there so you can deal with what comes with it.
Yes.
I think that would be really difficult. It would be. Do you think, which would be, you say is harder, which is a harder audience, your class of 30 school pupils or your people behind the phone?
I think it depends, because your class can be very different depending on the year, and you also know them so well. So by this point in the year, you've spent almost every day with them since August. You know them so well. But children are obviously, and young people, they are very unpredictable sometimes. You don't know what's going to come your way. So that can be challenging, whereas I think social media can be a little bit more predictable. And my audience is my audience. They've been my audience for a while, and they're all following me for a reason for the same reasons usually. So it can be, other than the algorithm, quite a predictable sort of route, but teaching is anything but predictable. So I would actually say standing in front of the class is probably more difficult, just because you're trying to, like I said, balance, could be 30 different emotions, and that can come with its challenges. So I'd probably say, stand in front of a class rather than...
You also don't see that off, can you? Like,
no, and you don't see the faces of... it's a bit more intimidating when people are actually like looking at you and it's not just a number on a screen. So I would say teaching a class is probably more difficult.
For any people listening to you just now about the skills and qualities and things like that you would need to make a success of this, if they're thinking, that's maybe a bit of me, I've got things under my belt, is this a career option for them? Can you make money as a content creator? Yeah,
definitely. I think I did not know that when I first started. I had no idea. And I think if you're going into it and that's your kind of end goal, that's your main goal, you just want to make money, I think people can see right through that. And you have to be really selective and really careful about, I probably turn down more sort of brand deals than I end up going for, just because it has to resonate with your audience. It has to actually make sense. You have to actually see the use and the value in whatever it is you're promoting. And you definitely can. I mean, you'll see the people that do this full time, do social media full time as a job. And I said earlier, there's so many different aspects of social media you can explore, be it if you are really into like snowboarding, I'm thinking of the Winter Olympics, or your gymnastics, or whatever it is that you really enjoy. I think it's a great way to turn your passion into something more than that. And that's kind of what I've done with teaching. I've turned in something that I'm really passionate about, something that I really enjoy, into something different. And it's still relatively a new concept, I suppose. People didn't really understand the whole ins and outs of everything, but it absolutely is a viable career option now. I think it's one of those ones, though, if you go in with the mindset of, I just want to make as much money as I can, you're probably going to find it more difficult versus going in and just having the sort of opinion of I'll show what I'm passionate about and I'll share what I'm interested in, and then you never know, you might end up getting to the position where you are making money from it. But I think if you're going in straight away with that being your kind of end goal, it might be a wee bit different.
So that's like a little snippet of advice. If you feel like you're that type of person to create content, having something that you're passionate about is the key.
Absolutely. And even if it is you're passionate about, like videography and film, if that is your passion, find a way to do that with something that you're really keen on. And if it's maybe if it is just, I want to showcase my life, I just want to show what it's about, then absolutely go for it. So you don't know where it could take you. Posting one video could take you anywhere literally in the world. So have you got one video in particular that made you pop or blow? Very strangely, it was a video around Christmas time, and it was like nativity season. And we had just finished our nativity, and actually it was inspired by the fact that we were jumping about on the benches at the back of the room, and a parent turned around and was like videoing us, and I'm like mortified, but I went, actually, do you know what? That could be quite funny. So I'm going to do that, because we all do it. All of us do it. So I was at the end of the day, right, we'll keep the lights down. I just jumped across the bench and doing all the silly things teachers do at the back of the room, try to get the children to not be nervous, to smile. All those classic motions. And then it ended up doing really well. And I think that was my first video that got over 1 million views. So I think it was one of the first ones. And I just didn't expect it to do anything, but
just so your brain can understand how big 1 million people is. You can.
I go to the ice hockey every week, and there's like 3,000. I think 3,500 is the size of the arena, and I look and go,
and you're like, wow,
there's so many people here, and then it kind of puts into perspective. I'm like,
that was 3.5% of.
There's a lot of people, which also that comes with a bit of responsibility that you don't want to accidentally press post on something that you don't want to post, and that goes the other way. But it's crazy. I can't really fathom the numbers sometimes.
And I think that kind of shows as well that the things that really do resonate with people, like that you're watching, is the things that you see. Like that's the sort of thing, like seeing that. Like I have been to, my daughter's in primary 7, and so you see, I've been to every year's nativity, and every year there's somebody stands in the back doing all the smile and all this and like singing. You hear the teacher singing more than you hear the children. You have to apologise to people standing in front of you. You're just going to get a breeze. I'm going to be flapping about in the back here. And it's like that thing of like, actually, as when we're watching social media, like the things that we like are the things that you watch and you go, you relate to it.
Definitely.
So it's showing that. And I think sometimes that idea, you probably didn't think that was going to be this big, massive thing. But actually, sometimes the small ideas that are just like, that'll be funny. Let's just do that. Yeah. That's the big thing.
It's always the ones that take you less time to edit as well. You could spend hours doing something, and you're like, no. And then the one that you're, I took a video of me crossing a road, pretending I was on a trip with my jacket around my waist, and like guiding the children over. It took me like 30 seconds to film, and that was another one that did really well. I'm like, I'm spending hours editing these videos, and I should just film myself crossing roads and standing on benches. Clearly, it's obviously the strategy.
That's it.
And thinking about like the toughness of the audience and things like that, but the content that you put out and how relatable it is, you must have some like kind of success stories, people that have come at you and given you positive feedback or let you know about the positive impact. Is there anything that kind of stick with you?
There was one particular one, and it was in the summer holidays, just as we'd finished, and I'd had a pretty rubbish week. It was just not a good week, and I hadn't posted anything. I was just kind of like down, and I was like, is this even what I want to do? And we were walking through a shopping centre, and someone stopped me, and they just were like, oh, Mrs. F, I really love your videos. And she had done her probation year, and she was talking to me about how she'd use my videos to help her through her probation year, and even like the funny ones or the kind of chill ones, she's like, they just help me feel like I'm not on my own with it. And I just felt like it was right timing as well. That sounds so cheesy, but after having like a week where I was just like questioning everything, and I actually walked away and I was like, oh my goodness, like a bit emotional. And I'm going, this is why you do it, even if it is one person. And I am kind of a socially awkward person though, so when people come up to me and they say, I'm like, hi, because you don't really know what to say to people. But that one it stuck with me because it really made me realise, like, okay, you're not giving up on this. Like, even though it's a hard week and, you've not maybe been feeling yourself, like why would you give it up when this is the kind of impact you could potentially
That's
have,
fantastic. That connection, that works both ways. Totally.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think back, like my primary 5 teacher, Miss McIntosh, shout out. She like literally, she was somebody that when I felt rubbish, I looked forward to going into school to see my teacher, and she was amazing. She was so fantastic. I've bumped into her since as when I worked in Nando's, she came in and I was like 18 and the last time I'd seen her had been P5. And she's like, Carrie? And I'm like, she remembers me, sort of thing. And it's this really lovely thing. So many people, they think about careers that they want to do based on what they've seen. So one of the really common ones is primary teacher. So again, they're seeing it as the pupil of like what it was like to have an amazing primary school teacher. They're not seeing the going home, marking, like planning lessons, everything like that. Like, it's such a big workload. And obviously the social media is a big workload as well. How do you balance that?
I think you just have to be okay with a to-do list not being done.
Yes.
Because it's never done. The to-do list is never done, and you should see the notes app on my phone. It's not, it's a wild place to be. But especially in teaching, I think you just have to be really good at prioritising. I tried to do that. That was one of the things when I first started in my career. I was like, I cannot let this take over my life.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, the first few years are a lot more difficult, I think, than when you've got the experience behind you, because naturally it takes you longer to plan a lesson. You don't know the pupils as well, so it takes you longer to resource things. And you build up a bank of strategies and lessons and things you can go back to. But it's one of those ones you just have to really understand where the priorities lie. And that is the children and, you know, their learning and their enjoyment. And sometimes you get thrown something that you just have to say, right, okay, that needs to just wait until I do X, Y, Z first. And then if I have time, I can do that. I always say I treat myself like a child in my class. So we have a system that's like must do and may do. So a must do job is something they have to do in the time. If they finish, I'll give them like a list of may do jobs that they can work through. And I do that with myself as well. So at the start of the day, I'm like, here's my 3 things that I must do before 4:30 or 5 o'clock, like whenever I plan to leave. And if I still have time, I get to like 4:15, I look at my may do jobs and say, right, that'll take me 15 minutes. I can just get it done. And that kind of keeps me on the right track. I'm not then, you know, in my probation year, I think I was getting in at like 7 in the morning, leaving at 7 at night most days. And that's just, I don't even know why.
It's not sustainable, is it?
It's not sustainable. And I had in my head that I needed to do that to be successful. I need to be first in the building. I need to be last out. And actually, you can't, it's not a sustainable thing to do. You can't actually do that day in, day out, because it's a really tiring job being, you know, it is. And by the end of the day, you're absolutely knackered. You don't have much left to give. So if you're there till 7 o'clock, by the time you get home, it's literally like dinner, bed, repeat, and that's it. And you don't, life is more than that. You don't want to just leave yourself
go to work
that.
Dark, come out dark.
That's it. Sometimes you can get a dog walk in if you're if you're feeling really lots of time on your hands, but you don't want it to be like that. You want to still enjoy your job. And I think that's a big thing for me is I want to still enjoy it. So I have to prioritise to be able to do that.
So how long did it take you to get to a point where you needed to prioritise boundaries for yourself?
Yeah, I had a bit of a strange first year of teaching because COVID hit in the sort of March. So we were at home, we were teaching online, which was really bizarre way to end my probation year. But I think it probably took me, I would say 3 or 4 years until I was really comfortable with that, because you sort of have to get over your own mindset a little bit. You sort of have to tell yourself that actually it's not the amount of hours you're constantly putting in, it's how you use those hours. So you have to be thinking, is what I'm doing productive? Is what I'm doing actually going to be purposeful in my classroom? Is it going to be useful for me? And the more you sort of get into that and sort of get over sometimes you have to say no, and that's okay. It's all right. It's not going to mean that you're not doing your job as well as the person next door, but you're able to say, right, I'm not able to do this right now. I can't take this on right now because these are the things that I need to focus on, improve on. These are the things I need to prioritise. And it took me a while to get the confidence to be able to do that, but you're better to do that and do those things really well and have a really big impact than to try and do 20 different things that you're maybe not able to do as well because you're spreading yourself so thin and then having little impact. So it's actually better to take on the 5 and do them really well than to take on the 20 and try to have, like, you know, your finger in all the pies and like doing everything all at once. Yeah.
So would you say at this stage now that with that experience, with that confidence and this ability and understanding, etc., that now have you achieved a good work-life balance? Yeah,
I do think I have. And I actually think content creation is a good reason for that, a good part for that as well, because I know that I need to leave myself like energy and time to, it's kind of like a creative outlet as well. It's kind of an opportunity to sort of blow off some steam and like give myself something that I'm focusing on for me. And I do think now I'm in a good way of, and don't get me wrong, some days you are still in there late and you can't help it, it can't be avoided, but I think I'm better at saying that it's, my life isn't all about my job, and it can't be if I want to be good at my job, because you have to have energy, right? If you're teaching children, you're teaching young people, you have to have a lot of energy to try and keep them engaged and keep them on the same sort of wavelength as you. So you have to be able to be okay with leaving the building sometimes at 4 o'clock, 4:30. And I do think now that I also have a rule that I don't take stuff home with me, because I think
switch off.
Yeah, as soon as and I've never done this, and sometimes I say this on social media and people are flabbergasted by it, but I just remember like teachers in my family coming home with like stacks of workbooks and, you know, putting them down on the kitchen table and like having dinner and they're marking books, and I just thought I can't do that. And as soon as you bring something home, I feel like it kind of sounds really dramatic, but it like invades your space, doesn't it? And all of a sudden your place to relax and your home and be with your family, it then isn't the place to relax. And I think that kind of came from working at home during COVID. Yeah. Where I was like, okay,
no choice.
You had no choice, but I was like, okay, well, I'm awake, so I may as well just put my laptop on, or like it's 9 o'clock at night, but I could just upload that for tomorrow. And when that happened, I was like, I just don't want to do that. So I don't bring anything home unless I really, really have to like log onto my laptop and you know, check an email or like make a slide for the next day. I don't mind doing that, but I'm not bringing stacks of marking. Norm. No, I'm not bringing stacks of marking home. My work laptop on a Friday, it gets closed, the shutter goes down, it's not coming with me. You know, I've got reports now, and I could have easily brought my laptop home on Friday and sat and written reports today and yesterday, but you know, it's okay to also have a break and have a holiday, and the reports will still get done and they'll still be there for me tomorrow. That's fine. But I didn't need to spend my days off writing them.
Exactly. And the thing is as well, is like people who are watching your social media content, it's like, it's remembering you are still a full-time teacher.
Yes.
Like, so that's your full-time job. The content creation, that's like extra. So you're already doing extra. So making sure that you have that, like that time that's yours, that means that you can give your all. And like, I always say to people, like, would you want a primary teacher who wasn't like, who didn't love it?
Yeah,
sort of
absolutely.
Like, you know, we all remember our teachers at school. There will always be a teacher that you remember from school who like clearly did not love children. And then but the ones that you remember that really made a difference in your life, that you can think that you would see in the street and you would chase after to say hello to, those are the ones that really loved it. So to maintain that, you've got to, again, turn that laptop off and leave it.
Yeah, you have to have boundaries. And I think the children are the best part of the job. They really are. And I say this all the time, but I do think teaching is such a wonderful job, but it does come with its challenges. And I think the biggest thing that you can do if you want to get into it is go in with that mindset of it's not going to be your whole life, and it can't take over your whole life, because it easily could. But I do think it's an amazing job. I think it's such a rewarding job. And you're right, if you love it and you love being there and you love teaching, then it shines through. And I think, to me, I always say that the most important thing is just it's those children in front of you. It's not sometimes getting the paperwork done. You know, my priority is always them.
Yes, and that's how it should be.
Yeah,
exactly. So obviously, like there's, like I've said, I've got a lot of people who want to be primary teachers. My daughter did want to be one. She's changed her mind now. It's been one for ages, but suddenly she doesn't. But anyway, so primary teaching is one that a lot of people really, really want to do. So we've spoken about like the really good parts, the children, the creativity and everything that goes with it. Like, what is the worst part? Like, I know that's saying that it feels like it's bringing it down, but like, you know, I think it's something people should be aware of, like that it isn't all sunshine and drawing and
I think that the thing that's hardest about teaching is your job isn't just to teach. You have so much more to do within that, and you know, you're carrying a lot of weight of, and if a child is coming and they're telling you what they're worried about, or you know, something that's happened, it's heavy on you as well, because you see it differently. You're an adult, so you know, you see it differently to the child, but there's so much going on in the job that is beyond just teaching. But even if it's a really hard day, if something has happened that you're aware of, the children maybe aren't, you have to turn around and have a smile on your face, and you have to, it's basically like performing. So the children, the young people in front of us, they should have no idea, and they probably don't have any idea about what's going on, be it in the school life or be it at, you know, your own personal life. You have to be this kind of consistent figure for them, and kind of like what I said at the start, that you have to be able to carry the emotions of all the children in that class. And do you know, I think sometimes people think, okay, you've got a class of 30, you just teach a lesson, you move on, that's good. But for a class of 30, you could be planning one lesson, but for like 5 or 6 different abilities within your class. So you know, you could have children that maybe are really struggling to write a sentence, some children who could write you a novel, and actually trying to teach across that range. It's not just write one lesson, mark it and go. It's so much more.
Well, it's not
phone calls
excluding anybody as well. It has to be,
and it's always moving. It's always changing. So you can't just, you know, be a good teacher 10 years ago and just keep doing that, because it's not going to work. Because I'm now at the point in my career as well where things are kind of coming back around. So I'm like, we've done this. We did this, 7 years ago, and they're like, this is a new initiative. And I'm
History goes.
I'm like, is it new? I'm sure I've done this before.
Yeah.
So you always have to be
Yeah.
willing to change and willing to adapt. So it's not one of those jobs where you just learn it and that's it. Good.
Yeah.
Like you can move on. You've got to, you're just always learning and always trying to be the best you can be.
Yeah, and then you spoke there about like that being that consistency. Like you could be having the worst week of your life, but they wouldn't really be able to tell.
Yeah.
But it's also that a lot of these young people, like they might not have what people think of as like traditional homes at home, and you could be the only consistent person in their life. So that is a lot of responsibility for you, and that's a lot that it can be really heavy on you.
Yeah.
So that's when things like the weekends and the holidays and things that's where they're needed to reset.
You need to kind of reset, absolutely. And there's times where it was in my probation year, I remember it so clearly that I'd had a really, I can't remember what actually happened, but it was a really bad day and I was speaking to my head teacher and it was a wet break, so I couldn't go upstairs to my classroom to just like decompress. I had to go into the staff room, and I love my school's amazing, my colleagues are amazing, they're just the best people ever, and one of them just looked at me and went, are you okay? Do you know when someone asks you and I just burst into tears and all of a sudden like 5 of my colleagues are around saying, look, I'll get your class, don't worry about it. And I said, no, I'm not doing that, I'll be fine. And literally like going out the staff room, like splash my face with some water, like take a deep breath, and then just went upstairs and taught, and the children would have had no idea, but that's just kind of what you have to do sometimes. And I said my colleagues are amazing, they're so supportive. I didn't need to do that because they were there for me, and they would have taken the reins if I needed to, but then in my head I'm going, right, the children will know that there's if I just come back 15 minutes later they're going to wonder what's going on, so you sometimes just have to take a deep breath and kind of perform, basically.
Definitely. But also knowing that they were there to help you probably made, like if they weren't there to help you, it would have felt harder going in. Knowing, right, if it really does get too much, I've got support there. Like,
they are the best. My colleagues are. I'm very lucky in that sense because they are the best people.
Always good.
It seems that you get quite a lot in your role. You get loads of challenges and responsibilities and loads of privileges and everything like that you can have such a positive impact. What's the funniest thing that's ever happened? You must have some funny stories as well.
I have got some corkers that the children have said, but I don't know if I'm allowed to share those stories. Maybe one or two. One of my favourites was a child came up to him and was really concerned, and I was like, what's wrong? And he's like, you've got mud on your face. And I was like, mud? And I was like, oh, it's just my makeup. It's like really badly blended. So that went straight in the bin. They're going to tell you exactly what they're thinking. Exactly what they're thinking. No. And he was genuinely concerned. Yeah. Like, he was concerned for me. And the other one actually weirdly does involve mud on my face because we were getting inspected, which is like the big thing that happens in schools. Yeah. I hadn't been through it before. And it just so happens I also had like the worst cold I'd ever had in my life. So I was feeling rubbish. I was feeling rotten. And I got to school, stepped out my car, and I was like, I still have my Crocs on. I'm like, great. I'm now teaching children in my Crocs with like dog gibbets on them. This is not good. I've been there
to school by accident.
I'm like, oh gosh, right. So we do this thing at my school, we call it the weekly walk. So the children go out a couple times a week. We literally just walk laps around the playground. It's great for like my mental well-being and theirs. We get some fresh air. So we're walking laps, and it's like the depths of November, right? It's not a good time. Oh, no. And we've got a forest at the back of our school. So just as we're going in, I see like some children running about, and I'm like, is that children from my class? I'm like, I'll go check. So I teach with someone in a base. Like there's 2 classes, 2 of us. I'm gonna go check they're not ours because there's 2 schools. So like, it's not a different class. It's not always ours. And I went to go up the hill and literally, because I'm wearing my Crocs, slipped, face planted, like full body covered in mud, like leaves in my hair, mud all over my face. Honestly, it was awful. Like the whole front covered, caked in mud.
No. And it might be hard to talk.
I stood at the door and my co-teacher looked at me and she went, did you fall? And I'm like, well, did I fall?
This was the look I went for.
Obviously, the kids are obviously howling like they are. To be fair, they asked if I was okay first, so then they started to laugh, and then I'm like, I have a staff meeting, I have no option but to stay after work, so I'm in the toilets like soaked because I'm trying to get all this mud off, and then I'm sitting in the staff meeting like smelling like wet dog, freezing cold because I'm like chittering, the windows are open, I'm like, and then the head teacher was like, right, don't forget you need to have your lanyards on when inspectors are in, and I was like, where's my lanyard? And I'm like, that's definitely sitting in the mud, like 100%. So I'd actually fallen so hard, like my lanyard had ripped off. It was just like stuck in this sort of body-shaped outline on the floor. So yeah, that was a really bad day for me. It wasn't the best time. Yeah. I think that's probably the worst. That's probably the worst one.
If it makes you feel better, in my old school in Fife, I used to work in Beef High School. It was like break time, so they were all there, like there's like a sort of crush area, and they were all sitting, they're all chatting away, and I was running up the stairs, and I just went and I fell down not one but 2 flights of stairs.
It's the worst. And they just watch, like on a curve, just watch it happen.
And they all go, and you know what they do though, they go, oh
yeah, that's it. Yeah, of course it is. Yes.
Yeah. And I've never got up so quickly in my life. Like I could have broken every bone in my body, and I would be up those stairs. And I went up, and I kind of just stood there like shaking, and I was like, I have to go back down. I had to go. So I'm like going back down, and they're all like, "You all right, Carrie?" And I'm like,
"Yeah, I'm fine."
Like, yeah, what are you on about? Nothing happened. So, but not muddy. But
no, I have missed my chair once as well, when I had just finished giving a child a bit of like a stern talking to, and went to sit down and just went under the desk. And the same, they all just went, "Ooh,
oh." It's just such a like,
I'm okay, I'm fine. Pop
and
back
it's
up.
always when you're trying to be really serious as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out those children are not coming in, and then all of a sudden I'm lying in the mud. I'm like, forget the children, I'm going inside. They don't belong to my class. It's fine.
So funny. Oh my goodness. Well, I think like there's so many different jobs where things like this like can happen. Like maybe not actually. Like how often are you in a job
maybe not that one,
you're
but
at that much risk of that? But like it shows that, you know, you can start the day and you can be completely fine. And you can end the day covered in mud.
Don't wear your Crocs to work.
Don't wear your nice clothes either.
No, never been able to wear that pink jumper again. It's just too stained for that.
And then even if you unstained it, like it's probably like a little bit cursed.
Yeah, it's tainted memories. I can't put it on.
Ruined. So what about like, obviously, so you're a primary teacher, you're doing your content creation, like have you got any sort of progression, any plans for where you're going next? Or
so I think with teaching, one of the strange things about it is now your career progression is pretty set out for you in terms of like your wages. When you start as a probationer, you start on 0.0 and then you go up every year until you get to the top of the scale. So that kind of progression is set out, but when you start to progress into like management and things like that, it actually takes you away from what you enjoy, which is the classroom part. You know, most teachers will tell you the best part is teaching, not everything else that comes along with it. And when I first started, I just thought in my head, like, that's the progression. I need to then, you know, be a PT and then a deputy head and then a head teacher. But now I'm like, what I really love is just being with the children and teaching them, and that is my favourite part of the job. So I'm not entirely sure if that's now something that I want to do. I think I definitely want to continue with the social media, and I want to keep doing that as well. So who knows, because if you asked me this 5 years ago, I would not be saying I'd be sitting on this podcast and doing all the things that I'm doing. So it's a hard one. I think I definitely want to continue doing teaching as long as I can, because I think when it's something you enjoy, not everyone enjoys their job, and I am very fortunate that I really do love my job. I really do enjoy it, and I think I'm grateful to have found something that I do genuinely like doing. So yeah, that's the main aim. Keep doing that.
With this being such a common and highly sought after kind of career, have you got any kind of hints or tips for any young people looking to kind of to get on this career path? Yeah,
I think get experience in a school if you can. Schools are always willing to have volunteers. We love a volunteer. So I think my thing that I did when I started is I did a lot of coaching, and that was great. It was a great experience, but I think the relationship when you're coaching and versus when you're in a classroom and you're sort of a different authority figure is quite different. The coaching put me in good stead, and I was able to kind of talk from experience of that, but actually getting into a school is probably the best bit of advice I could give you, you know, whether it's if you've got free periods or if you're someone who's maybe, you know, at college or you're, you know, you've got a bit more spare time during the week, then definitely try and get in. Just email your local schools, see if there's any way you could go in, even if it's just for a couple of hours, because school is, well, when I went to school, it's very different to how it is now as well. And I think it's one of those jobs that you don't know if you're going to like it until you actually have experience in the building and experience of what a classroom is like nowadays. So get some experience and see if it is truly something that you can see yourself doing. I think you said a lot of people want to be teachers because they've got a good experience of it, but with it being different from when you're in as a pupil, when you're in it as a kind of authority figure, or you're helping out, get experience. And in an interview situation, if you're interviewing for, you know, these courses, a lot of the time they're just looking for your communication skills, your ability to sort of clearly get across a point, your ability to make sure that everyone's involved in the conversation. I remember when I was doing my interview, it was like a group task thing. And at the time, I didn't really understand it. It was like ordering the skills of a teacher. I didn't really understand why we were doing this task, but there was kind of someone hovering over our shoulder listening in. And at the end, I remember the person who did my interview was then one of my lecturers. So I was speaking to him and I said, what is the purpose of that task? And he said, it's basically just checking that you are someone who can naturally sort of include others and integrate them into conversations. He said, one of the things that you were doing was saying, what do you think? And like pulling people in who maybe were a bit quieter in that situation. So if you're going for these interviews, don't get too hung up on, they're not expecting you to be a teacher at that point. They're not expecting you to know like policy and, all the things that we know as teachers, because that's what you learn at university. You're there they're just checking that can you communicate? Do you have the kind of confidence to stand up in front of people? And even if you don't, just, fake it till you make it. Because eventually you will have the confidence. It's intimidating at the time. But, I used to get so scared doing my student teaching lessons. Speaking in front of these children now, it's like second nature. I don't even think about it. So it's one of those ones, definitely loads of experience in a setting if you can. And then when it comes to, interviews or application forms, really selling your soft skills that we kind of spoke about at the start that are really transferable. And rather than focusing on policy and, I wrote an essay on homework and that didn't do me very well. So don't get hung up on things like that, because they don't want to see that. They want to see you and how your personality would fit into education.
And did you, because you were saying that you did coaching, what was it that you coached?
So I was a cheerleader for a lot of my life. So I coached the kind of, when I was back where I lived at home, I kind of grew up going through the programme, and then it was for Duke of Edinburgh actually. When I was 15, I decided to kind of get into coaching, and I did that for quite a while. So it was good fun. And my work experience was also in a primary school when I was in high school. So that kind of sparked something in me, I think, to be like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is something I can see myself doing.
Yeah, and you've like built that picture of like your skills go with what you want to do, but also like you say, you don't know that you're going to actually like working in a primary school until you've been there. So having that work experience or that volunteering is it's so valuable. Like we're always very like pro getting out and trying stuff. Definitely.
What does it sound like? Was it smell like? Was it look like?
If you go to the same primary school, if you go to your same primary school, it'll probably smell the same as it did when you were there, because I did my work experience there. I remember walking down the corridor being like, smells like my first day of school. I can smell the Play-Doh and the gym shoes. This is great. It's not changed. So definitely get some experience, because it's one of those jobs where you just don't know until you try it. Exactly. So get stuck in as well. Don't be afraid to, if you are volunteering, really get stuck in with it and offer to maybe like, can I help those children with the reading, or can I do that? If you just stand at the side and kind of watch, you're not going to learn as much. Whereas if you've nothing to lose by just getting involved and seeing what you think. So go for it. And said we love a volunteer. So we always love a volunteer.
Perfect. To be fair, like when it comes to like sorting work experience for people, it does tend to be like skills are really good to get there. Definitely.
We do. We love having an extra pair of hands in the classroom.
Brilliant.
Could always use it. So
that's amazing. Honestly, thank you so much. It's been so nice speaking to you. And I think the people who are listening, I think it's such a good insight. And I think actually, especially being able to go onto your TikTok, your Instagram, everything like that, and actually learn from that as well. It's such a good resource to have.
With having this experience of building this online community, what's that like? And is there any negatives that you've got to deal with in terms of people's opinions, people's feedback, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that it takes time to build an online community. I think it takes time to build your audience authentically, and I think people want this sort of golden ticket of, like a 30 million view viral video that's going to build them a community, when actually all of those videos are great for like an ego boost, and we all love a high view video. If it's a quick sort of trend, a quick viral thing, it doesn't tend to build the audience in the same way as if you're, sitting and it's like you're on FaceTime and you're having a chat with them, and people watch content for two reasons, like storytelling or learning something. That's really why people are watching the content, and sometimes the quick ones are not the ones that are going to build your community. It's the kind of just sharing your experiences, sharing your stories, sharing maybe a tip that you've learned, something like that. And I think it's the internet. Naturally, there's going to be negatives. I think you have to be able to kind of block that out and realise that you're not going to be every single person's cup of tea, and that's okay. You don't need, it's the same in life, you know, like you're going to meet people that some people are going to love you, some people are not going to like you as much, and I think that's a hard lesson. I think if I was younger, my younger self would not have been able to kind of take it in the same way that I have. I'm quite fortunate that naturally as being a teacher, I don't tend to get that many negative comments, but there's things you can do to protect yourself as well. So if any young people listening are wanting to get into social media, you know, you can put like filtered words on, and some social media platforms are really good at kind of, if a comment does come up and it's, you know, particularly negative, they're quite good at flagging it, and it goes to like a different folder, and just don't look at that folder. Sometimes I do, and it's not good, so don't look at that folder. But I think you just have to be of the opinion that if what you're putting out is helping, like I said at the start, one person, two people, then you've achieved your goal, and not everyone's going to agree with you. You know, there's a sort of, the internet's such a huge place. I could post one thing saying this is what I do to be a successful teacher, and then my next video could be someone saying they do the complete opposite to be a successful teacher, and that's all right. I think you need a bit of critical thinking on the internet to understand that, you know, not every video is targeted at you or towards you, and sometimes people don't maybe use that critical thinking, and they leave a comment, and you just think if it's, most of the time it's a faceless comment, it's, you know, not a real username as well, and you just think if you wouldn't say that with your own name and say it, you know, with your own profile picture, there's a reason for that.
Yes, absolutely.
And it says far more about those people than it will ever say about me. So you just kind of have to take it with a pinch of salt and say, look at all these positives that are coming from it, and looking at all these, you know, the people that stop you and say, and focus on that rather than the people who want to, you know, mindlessly leave a comment that isn't really of any value.
So it's quite interesting what you said as well about, like, if you get a viral clip, the type of community that you build. So, like, if you have a viral clip, they're going to be expecting something viral all the time. That's why they follow you. So that's why they drop off. So the type of community that you would build through your authentic work, they typically remain. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. And one of the videos that tend to do the best for me is the ones where I'm literally just sitting in the car and having a chat. You know, I could put my phone down and just say, oh, you know, we've all had days like this teaching, and there could be 100 comments from people who are feeling the same way, and they say, you know, this has really helped me to realise, because sometimes social media can be like falsely positive as well, and it can be people that are, you know, you see all the influencers that are like, join me for a day in the life, and like they go to Pilates and then they go for their coffee and like that looks great, but it's not also realistic for the majority of us, right? So those videos where you're actually just yourself and you're chatting, you're talking about maybe something that you don't realise that it's a shared experience sometimes, and that community is built through being authentic and sometimes a bit vulnerable as well. Sometimes, you know, I remember before the summer I posted a video and I said, I don't know why, but I'm feeling really anxious about going back, probably the most anxious I've felt about going back into teaching this year, and I was just really worried about things, and I had loads of comments from people saying that they feel the exact same way, and it kind of put a bit of a pep in my step and me feeling like, oh well, actually it's not just me, like a lot of us are going through this, and you know, some people might not agree and they might decide to leave a comment telling me that, but the 20 people who are telling me they do agree, that is worth a lot as well. And I think those are the ones where people sort of they build a community with you rather than they're just following you for, like, although I do post funny stuff, like they're just following you because you posted a really funny video and it's lighthearted. They actually want that community, which is real.
For retaining this community that you have, is there like a certain model that you've got to take an approach to get a certain amount of content per whatever, or is there anything like that?
Yeah, I think you always hear this about people saying, you know, you need to post like 5 times a day to be successful and all of that. And I think certain social media platforms work in different ways. So like what works really well on Instagram might not work really well on TikTok, and you kind of learn that. You have to be consistent. You know, if you're dropping off the face of the earth for a month and then coming back, then especially if this is something that you're wanting to be your job, you know, you're not going to show up at your job for 2 days and then take like a week off and then come back a day later. You're not going to do that. So if you are serious about it, then absolutely. But I do think you need to also think about the content that you're putting out. So you don't just want to mindlessly be putting content out. I don't think there's a particular, like, the whole like 5 times a day. Like, I've never done that because I just don't think that's sustainable. But I try to post, you know, at least during the weekdays, I try to post once a day. But if I don't, like, it's not the end of the world. But if I was to have my platform like go back to 0 tomorrow, that would probably be a different, you know, a different viewpoint. If I was still trying to really grow it up to something, I probably would be posting kind of every single day, and that would be my strategy. But I think there has to be sort of value in it, whether it's personal value or you don't just want to be posting random stuff that makes no sense. Yeah, I think so. And the algorithm also loves consistency. So it likes when you're, I spoke at those 3 content pillars. It likes when you're speaking about the same things or kind of fitting within your sort of pillars or your niche, if you will. It likes as soon as you post something that's slightly out of it, it can kind of throw everything off. And sometimes if I'm in the summer holidays, if I post like a video and I'm traveling, it can take like a month or 2 for that to kind of come back round to normal, because the algorithm's like, what are you doing? Why are you on a beach? You're normally in a classroom. Do you know what? Social media is so clever. It notices like the algorithm picks up like all of your backgrounds and picks up within the first few seconds what you're talking about. And this is all like AI generated. It's not even human integration, so interference, sorry. So if you are doing it, be consistent and be kind of clear on what it is you want to do and try and keep it within that as much as you can. I still love a little travel video every now and then, but I just know that for a month or so after it, it's going to take me time to kind of pick back up to what I was doing.
Oh, wow. And I think as well, like what you said about like the negative aspects and with people and things like that, I think people are a lot quicker to say, like people are more likely to leave a bad review of a restaurant than to leave a good review.
100%.
So it's that same sort of thing, isn't it? So it's kind of being aware that the people who kind of spout that sort of stuff off, that's not actually what the majority of people are seeing, because the majority of people will like it and scroll on. And then you might get your positive comments, but people do find it easier to leave a negative comment than a positive one. So it's kind of, and like I think you said, block.
Yes, block them. You have to protect. You have to protect your peace and protect your energy.
100%.
And I just think this is my social media page that I built, and yes, I am going to dictate what you can comment on my page, and if I don't like it, it's gone. I'm going to block you. Although I did accidentally block somebody, and they commented on my friend's video, and they were like, "I can't click on her page. Where is it? I think she blocked me." And then if I block someone, this is really sad, but I screenshot like a comment so I know why I blocked them. Yeah. And I went back and I was like, I just replied to her, and I'm so sorry. I don't actually know why I blocked you. I have your comment.
It was an accident.
I was obviously just having a bad day. I just decided to block you. So you have to protect your energy and protect your peace, and be okay with not giving people the time that they don't deserve if they're choosing to
definitely
choosing to leave a nasty comment, because
exactly. Say it to your face.
Yes, exactly
that. I mean, I hope they wouldn't, because that would probably be worse.
Yeah, that would be worse, wouldn't it? Oh, honestly, it's been so lovely having you. And so for anyone listening, we said at the start, but it's Teach with Mrs. F. Yes. And I think genuinely anyone who's considering wanting to go into teaching, or even anything that is going to be about communicating and being a people person, go and watch your videos. Honestly, they're so fantastic. And it's been so lovely speaking to you. And thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.